What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightquest. And I know it has been a while since we actually covered Batman Knightquest, but don't worry, we can go ahead and jump right back into it once again. Now, today we're going to cover Batman issues number 506 and 507. Now, this is a two-part story arc where it kind of continues the whole idea of John Paul Valley being Batman and trying to hunt down Abattoir, a character who's out there in Gotham City right now, killing off different members of his family. But I'll explain more here in a moment. But even though this two-part story arc continues that idea of Batman trying to find him, it's also Batman teaming up with another character from the good old Bloodline event. Now, Bloodline was a very interesting event in DC Comics. Let me explain. You see, in the early 1990s, DC had this idea, right? It was called DC Bloodlines. It was basically a way to bring in new readers, but to also bring back old readers as well. And the way to do that was to create a bunch of new characters. You see, DC had this idea where 7 aliens would go down to Earth and begin to drain the spinal fluid of different people across the world. And usually you would die, but occasionally for some people you would gain powers. And that is where Bloodlines came in. It gave us a wave of new characters to hopefully be popular enough to carry their own book. Unfortunately, that plan did not work out. Really, only like one, maybe two characters actually did work out. And one of those characters is Hitman, but he's not in this book. We have a different character who came out of Bloodlines in this two-part story arc right here, who's also hunting down the bad guy better known as Abattoir. Now let's have a quick conversation about the character known as Abattoir. Now when it comes to Abattoir, he was a very, to me, low-level Batman villain that DC was really trying to get off the ground because he does appear a lot in Knightquest, and it did seem like DC was trying their best to bring more fans into this actual character. But either way, when it came to Abattoir, he was a person who was going around killing off different members of his family. And the reason why? Because he believed that his family was actually evil. As a matter of fact, every single time he killed off one of his family members, he believed that he was actually absorbing their life energy. Yeah, crazy and wild. But hey, that's Abattoir for you. Now, with that being said, in our last video for that character, he was able to get away, but he was going after one of his cousins in his family. Now, that cousin's name is actually Graham. But either way, he was only able to get away because Batman had to save the life of Graham, but also save the life of a bus full of children. And so Abattoir was able to use that moment to get away for Batman. And so as we dive into Batman issue number 506, it's really more of John Paul Valley continuing his search for Abattoir. Now, the opening pages of this book is kind of reminding us that for John Paul Valley, he's still trying to realize that to be a great Batman, you gotta be a great detective like Bruce Wayne was. And for John Paul Valley, he hated the idea of doing detective work, but now he realized that sometimes you have to do detective work if you are going to be able to find the person that you are actually looking for. Like I said a moment ago, when it came to Abattoir, he was trying to go after his cousin Graham. As we all know, he failed. But there was another cousin who's still alive. The problem is Abattoir is not able to get to that cousin because he is in prison, and that would be Henry. Now, Henry is the father of Graham, but you have Henry call up his lawyer, Walter, and here's the reason why. Because Henry got word that Abattoir tried to kill off his son, Graham. And so this is Henry saying, listen, I want to put a bounty on the head of my cousin because he is crazy. Now, at first, for Walter, he believes that the only reason why Henry is doing this is to get revenge against Abattoir, because Henry is in jail because he killed off his wife. But he killed off his wife with Abattoir helping him. But he went to jail, and Abattoir was able to continue to live his life as a free man. But you have Henry say, no, I'm trying my best to protect my son Graham, because really, Graham will have all the money down the road, and I want to make sure that he stays alive so that we're able to collect the money from him when we need to. And so it's Walter, Henry lawyer, saying, fine, I'll put a contract on him, and hopefully somebody's able to kill him off for you. But now we have to jump over to a random bar. And when we do, we actually pick up with a character known as Ballistic. Now, Ballistic is one of those bloodline characters. Now, here in a moment, I'll try my best to explain who is Ballistic. But like I said, he's one of those bloodline characters, but right now he is a mercenary, just trying his best to look for some work. And so right now he walks into this bar to talk to the bartender, asking him, hey, listen, do you know about any contracts out there at all? And the guy says, no, but leave me your card. And just in case I hear something, I'll hand that info over to you so that you're able to collect on that contract once you're able to kill off the person on the contract. Now, I do want to jump over to a group of characters better known as the Malevolent Maniacs. Now, this is a 3-character group here that's really more of debt collectors, and right now you see them going after one of their people who owes them money. But then one of the members of this group hears about the actual contract that was put out on Abattoir. And so you have our 3 random thugs here agree to go after Abattoir to hopefully collect on that money. And they're going to play a small role in the storyline. Really, this whole 2-part story are more about Batman and also by Ballistic, but they're going to be around for different scenes in this actual book. Now, let's sit down and actually talk about Ballistic here. You see, Ballistic first appeared back in Batman Annual number 17. Now, like I said earlier, when it came to Ballistic, he's one of those characters who unfortunately had his spinal fluid drained by one of those aliens back in Bloodlines. And so he did gain an ability, which was his skin was turned into some kind of armor. And so with that and the way he looks, he kind of gave up being a cop and became a mercenary so that he is able to make ends meet. But when it comes to Ballistic, he does get a call from that bartender from earlier saying, hey, listen, man, I got a contract for you. And of course, that contract is to go after Abattoir. And so sooner or later, him and Batman are going to cross paths with one another. And really, speaking of Batman, you have Batman trying to find the people who had actually helped Abattoir break out of Arkham a while back. And so you have Batman just trying his best to find the different people who had actually helped him escape from Arkham. And so you have Batman go to a nearby bar where he had heard that one of Abattoir's close allies is usually at that bar playing pool. Except when Batman arrives at the bar and beats down the person he believes to be working with Abattoir, he realized that he has the wrong guy. But it kind of shows that Batman here, John Paul Valley, is not really trying to do the good detective work. He's trying his best to do the fast and quick detective work so that he is able to find Abattoir at a fast pace. But the problem is him being fast is now him being sloppy. And right now he is making a lot of mistakes. Now, I want to jump back over to the Malevolent Maniac group because you have those 3 guys realize that there's other bounty hunters out there who are also looking for Abattoir, like, for example, Ballistic. And so right now, their main goal is to hurry up to find Abattoir so that they are able to actually collect the money on him. But they realize that one of the guys who had worked at Abattoir in the past is working or hiding at some kind of warehouse nearby. And so you have our 3 guys here head over to that warehouse. Now for John Paul Valley, he went back to the Batcave to do some more detective work. And that was when he realized the same guy they went after is the same guy he needs to find as well if he wants to be able to find Abattoir. And so you have Batman also go to that warehouse. Now, once you have John Paul Valley arrive at that warehouse, he runs into the Malevolent Maniac group and they begin to fight against one another. Well, they're about to. But then you have Ballistic appear to kind of show that you have three different groups right now, three different parties trying their best to find Abattoir. Now, two of them are trying to get the money. One of them just wants to bring the bad guy down. Either way, it does seem like all three parties are about to fight against one another. Now, as we dive into Batman issue number 507, the second chapter for today's video, I do want to establish that this is not the first time you're having Batman and also Ballistic meet one another. They met back in Batman Annual number 17. Now, with that being said, you're going to have the two characters actually working together to fight against the malevolent maniac group. And so you do get a few pages of our two heroes being able to actually work together. Now, with that being said, you do have one of the gang members being able to find a tank of gas, and then you have the gang actually light the gas tank up, causing a small explosion in the actual warehouse so that they are able to get away from Batman and Ballistic and then continue on to hopefully find Abattoir to hopefully bring him in to get that money. Now, for Batman and also Ballistic, they are able to work together to actually save the lives of all the people who were trapped inside the warehouse. Now, let's not forget that one of the people who were actually in the warehouse was one of the guys who worked with Abattoir. And so our heroes were hoping to get to him, to question him, to hopefully find Abattoir. The problem is that he is unconscious. And so for Batman, they don't have time to wait for him to wake back up. They have to move on. Now, you do have Batman and Ballistic agree to work together to hopefully find Abattoir. And for John Paul Valley, he knows that Ballistic is only doing this really because of the money. But at the same time, for Ballistic, he was a cop in the past. He hates the idea of some serial killer being out there causing lives to be lost because of some weird things going on with his family. And so you have our two heroes agree to actually work together. Now, for Batman, he tells Ballistic that he knows another person that might be able to help them figure out where Abattoir is at. That guy would be Ralph Luxor. Now, for Ralph Luxor, he works and owns a nightclub in Gotham City. And they said, hey, you know what? Let's go there right now to hopefully find this guy, to hopefully find Abattoir. Now, while you have our two heroes head over there, we did jump back over to the Malevolent Maniacs, because you have that group right there also going the same place, because he also got word that Ralph Luxor might also know where Abattoir is at. And so you have both sides go there. Now, when both sides arrive, well, of course, you have both sides now fighting against one another. Now, while you have both sides fighting against one another, you did have Ralph Luxor calling his security team, who apparently has guns as well. And so it turns into a huge battle between all three parties. Now, it does get to the point where you have the Malevolent Maniacs being able to actually corner Luxor while you have everyone kind of fighting against each other. Now, for Ralph Luxor, he's trying his best to tell the leader of that group, like, he has no idea where Abattoir is at. But this guy is not trying to listen at all. He believes that Ralph Luxor may actually know where he is at. And so you have the leader actually kill off Ralph Luxor. Now, at first, he counted down from 3, hoping that it scared Ralph to actually share that piece of information. Unfortunately, he kills a guy off, and now he's definitely not able to get any kind of info at all from Ralph. And for Batman and Ballistic, they saw what happened. And so they were able to work together to take down the entire gang. But then you have Batman wondering, why in the world is this gang also after Abattoir for? And that is when they said, listen, there is a contract out on his head for $100,000. And so we believe that we should be the ones to find him so that we are able to actually collect on that money. Now, for Batman and Ballistic, they realize that that means there are other bounty hunters out there. And honestly, they don't want other bounty hunters chasing down Abattoir. And so you have Batman as a gang. How were you supposed to collect the money if you were able to actually finish the contract? And so for the ending of this video, you do have Batman and also Ballistic head over to the home of Walter, the lawyer of Henry, who's the cousin in jail of Abattoir. Now, once you have Ballistic being able to get the money from Walter, you then have Batman say, hey, you know what? I need all the listing of all the properties that Henry owns, kind of hinting at the idea that maybe Abattoir is just hiding out in one of those homes across Gotham City. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.